Okay. My name is John Wills. I'm the Secretary Treasurer of the Menominee High School Athletic Hall of Fame. And this has been a wonderful experience. Thank you. This is our fourth induction. It should have been our fifth, but of course 2020 and the COVID thing put a kibosh to that. So those guys who were nominated in 2020, they got inducted last fall. And here we are on really short notice. We pulled together 2022. In great respect to my partner, Randy Dennis, wherever he went, I want you at this time to put your hands together for the maestro, the brains, the guy who put this whole thing together, Mr. Randy Dennis. It was he who thought about having a Hall of Fame. And of course, in my stupidity, I agreed and got snared right in. Before we get, I'd like to offer a short prayer. So if you folks would be kind enough to bow your heads and let us pray. Good and gracious God, thank you for bringing us together this night to celebrate the athletic accomplishments of these Menominee High alumni. Thank you for those who mentored them, their coaches, teachers, parents. Thank you for keeping them from major injury, that their gifts were able to be shared, bringing joy and light to those who raised them, trained them, supported them, and cheered for them. On this evening, as we reminisce, we ask that you continue to use the gifts of these people to share your love for the world in which we all live. In your Son's name, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Now, the dinner shall be served.
Tony and Liz are at a table with gold plates.
You know, you have, over the course of 36 years, you have hundreds and hundreds of students. I taught in Menominee for 36 years, and you know, if you have 125 kids a year, that's a lot of kids. But early on in my career, I had the pleasure of having a group of students that were just outstanding. And one of the most outstanding of those students is my partner in this endeavor, Mr. Randy Dennis. What I'd like to do now is introduce Randy to provide you, present some opening remarks. Sonny, it's all to you.
Thank you, Mr. Wills. On behalf of the Board of Directors of the Hall of Fame, welcome everybody to the fourth induction ceremony of the Menominee High School Athletic Hall of Fame. We are truly honored and humbled to be in the presence tonight of tonight's 8 inductees, Denise and Fred, Dewey, Chuck Patrick, Janet, and back amongst over there, Tyler and Brent and Drew. Along with all of their family and friends, we are happy that you're all here supporting them, and to all of the rest of you that support Maroon Athletics. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you for being here tonight, and we hope that you enjoy it all. Also in our presence this evening are members of the past 3 induction classes in 2018, 19, and 2020. Now I would like to introduce those past inductees. When I say your name, if you could please stand up and be recognized. And after I introduce all of the inductees, we'll give a collective round of applause. We have 4 coaches with us this evening. Coach Hofer, please stand if you could, please. Coach Pusha, Coach Joe Johnson will be here. In the same table, Coach Pete Mayhew. And, okay, you can see it, please. Also, I'll take this time, our inductee Pete Mayhew just concluded a 6-month stint as our interim superintendent. Thank you for your service to our educational community. Also with us tonight are 3 individual inductees. Pat Miller, please stand. Vicki Harlow and Sid Wells. We have a few from the 1998 football team recently inducted in October of last year. Would like them to be recognized. Coach Ken Hofer. Coach, you may stand again. Yes, up and down, up and down. Coach Joe Noah. Thank you. And I see Jeremy, you're getting very salty. David Parrott. Jim Randula. Okay. Help me out here. Okay.
Anybody else from that team here?
Yeah. Anybody else?
Stand up.
And Drew Boyarski. Stand up, Drew. All right. And then last but not least, we have from our inaugural class in 2018, members of the state championship, 1967 state championship basketball team. We thank Coach Kushak, please stand. Steve Gondek, John Holford, please stand. Fred Grant, Luke Delisle, please stand. Cubby Johnson, Bobby Dufresne, and then the 2 Bills, Bill Kelly and Bill Jones. Please stand. Bill Jones and Bill Kelly. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here this evening. Back in the 50th anniversary of the 67 championship team, Bill Jones, John Hofer, John's wife Mary, amongst many others, put together a booklet that I referenced back in 2018, but the title of the book is Road to the Championship, 1967 Menominee Maroons Basketball. Bill Kelly has brought with him a supply of these books. They are $25, but it's been said he'll take any nominal donation. It all goes to a good cause, and not a good cause, a great cause. The 67 team has set up scholarships, 2 scholarships each year that are $1,000 apiece, and the money that would be donated for these books goes toward those scholarships, right?
Very nice.
So this year, our community had the special pleasure of watching our boys basketball team make it to the state finals. And for Brady and Aiden, who are here with us tonight, an idea for you guys to consider for, maybe you don't have to wait 50 years, but it is something that maybe you can purchase one of these. It's an awesome book. Hopefully you guys will, everybody here will give consideration. So thank you. All right? To make the Hall of Fame possible, there are so many people that have come up and have done the right thing. And so please bear with me. I have a number of people to thank, all worthy of their recognition. And I'll just go down through my list here. We have 2 gals that have taken tickets at the superintendent's office and the athletic director's office, Julie Craw and Darnice Untai. Thank you for your efforts there. When you walked into our room tonight, it is wonderfully decorated. Each table was given individual care, and the gals that have done the decorating right from the very start. Deb Rankinen, Tammy Karkinen, and Betsy Shaver. Let's give them our sincere round of applause. Whenever our board of directors needs help, there are two people that always ask to help, and they were here at the front table this evening collecting tickets. Want to recognize Owen Peterson and Judy Peterson. Thank you for your efforts. You also delivered the cakes. Sherry and her staff at the Empress here have provided a wonderful family-style meal. So let's recognize Sherry and her staff. Well done. Up front, if you haven't seen them, there are picture collages that have pictures that were given to us for display here this evening. Allison Stewart has done this for the 4 years we've had our induction ceremonies. Please take some time and look at these wonderful pictures of tonight's 8 inductees. So thank you, Allison. Okay, yes. We have had 3 really great keynote speakers, and tonight will be no exception. Coach Bob Krishak is going to be our guest speaker this evening. Your time is coming shortly, so thank you for offering your words this evening. Much appreciated, Coach. Yep. Let's see. I would like to provide a quote, and I've done this the last 3 presentation ceremonies, but it's by the famed golfer Bobby Jones, who said that in order for an athlete to gather any sort of fame, it is not enough to do the job. There must be somebody there to spread the news. Our Twin Cities have been blessed with some of the finest broadcast journalists and sports reporters that could ever be collected over a series of time. And they have covered Twin City sports fantastic. And as it relates to the Hall of Fame, their promotion of the Hall of Fame has been very much needed and appreciated. So I want to recognize those people now. Matt Lehman and Brian Bell with the Eagle Herald have provided weekly articles of each inductee. Their research and articles leading up to the Hall of Fame are met with anticipation by all that read them, and so we thank Brian and Matt. Over the airwaves, Josh Kellner, Kit Donaldson, and Eric Bergstrom. Actually, you gentlemen stand up, please. Kit and Eric and Josh is in the back. Man, talk about the stories of Menominee and other area athletes. Thank you very much for everything, fellas. Okay. And then over the FM station 103.7, we have with us tonight Jim Callow and Chuck Patrick. Thank you for your endorsement of the Hall of Fame and that all of you have done for our local sports community. All right. In your program this evening, in the inside cover, there are a number of people that are referenced in the inside cover. Our officers to the Hall of Fame. We have a 15-member nomination and selection committee that rank nominees and provide information to the board of directors for selecting each class of inductees. And leadership, of course, always starts from the top. Our administration and our Board of Education have provided the support necessary for this board or for this Hall of Fame to be what it is today. So we thank all of these people that are listed here with much appreciation. So thank you very much. Yes. There's 2 more things, and then we get on to our presentations. For tonight's presenters and inductees, I'm just going to give you a heads up. When I look out at the room right here that I am in front of right now, it is really cool up here, okay? It is, there are so many familiar faces, and once you get up here, you're going to feel at home and feel that you're part of a real special family, which is the Maroon family, okay? So relax, have fun, okay? Last thing is my personal thank you to one of our Hall of Fame inductees here this evening, and it is Dewey Belisle that I'd like to recognize, and here's why. Back when I was in 3rd grade, my dad took me to my, at least with my remembrance, he took me to my first home Maroon basketball game in the old gym. And I remember seeing Dewey play there. Dad piled me into his vehicle. We made our way to Marquette. And then eventually we made it down to the state semifinal game in East Lansing. And that was my first remembrance as a 3rd grader watching Maroon basketball. However, as a 4th grader, so this is now 52 years ago, as a 4th grader, I was at a home game at the new Menominee High School gym. And when the game was over with, I was with my brother, traipsing with him, and the game had concluded, and we're walking through the crowd of people, and I look through the crowd, and who do I spy? Dewey Belisle. And I turned to my brother, I said, "What the fuck? Do you think I could go up and get his autograph?" He said, "Well, go up and ask him." So I did. Dewey gave me his autograph, okay? And I felt like I was the coolest guy around, all right? I had Dewey Belisle's autograph. He was my sports basketball hero growing up. Sadly, that program was in my scrapbook, and sadly that has been lost. However, there's a good side to the story. Tonight, I was able to take my program, and first thing I did when Dewey arrived is I asked him to sign my program. And now I feel complete, okay? Dewey, you're the chief reason, or not the chief reason, but one of the main reasons that when signups came available to sign up for elementary basketball. We lived in the country. It wasn't easy back then. Parents only had one car, getting back and forth to practices. I don't know if I used your autograph as a sign of my sincerity to wanting to play basketball, but my parents bought into it. And I can only say that 52 years later, I've stayed involved with basketball in some capacity or another, and you were a big part of it. So thank you very much, Dewey Belisle. All right, so tonight, this is it.
You're kidding.
I'm not. Tonight is the time for us to reflect and remember. It is time to share and celebrate. And lastly, it's time to pay our respect and give thanks to tonight's inductees as we welcome them into our newest Maroon family, the Menominee High School Athletic Hall of Fame. All right, have a great time. John's going to take us through our program. Enjoy the evening.
Well done, my friend. Well done. Just a reminder, inductees are going to have your photo taken right after the program is over. We're going to set up 4 chairs here. 4 of you are going to sit in the chairs. 4 of you are going to stand behind. You can decide who does what. And then we'll do the same thing with the members of the 67 team. Will still be alive at the end of the evening. I do have photos and things that you inductees loaned to me. I want you to pick them up tonight before you go home. I know Brent and Eric's got a bunch of stuff here. Janet, you do. We got a couple of pictures of yours that belong to you. So come on up and dig through and take what belongs to you. If you don't do that, I'll remind you. Thank you. It does give me pleasure at this time to introduce to you a very good friend of mine. We have lunch every Monday, breakfast every Tuesday, breakfast every Wednesday, breakfast every Thursday. I asked him, I said, "What do you want to do on Friday, Mom?" He says, "I think I want to stay home and sleep," which is probably a good thing. But I've known Bob since I came here to teach. He was a wonderful colleague. Of course, I've been involved in athletics, and we've remained good friends ever since. And you all know him as a class act, and that's one of the reasons why we asked Coach Bob Krishak to be our keynote speaker. So at this time, I would like you to welcome to the podium Coach Bob Krishak.
Thank you. We have to press the button.
No, it's on. Just put it close.
No, it's not. Is it on?
Just put it close to your mouth, Bob.
I never yell that loud. He's right. We probably go through somewhere between 4 and 5 gallons of coffee a week. Welcome to everybody here. I know all of you. I think all of you. I think I've been here since most of you were kids. And if you weren't kids then, I knew you as fellow coaches and fellow teachers. And when John says that they went through a lot of time and effort, I can tell you that on every Wednesday and Tuesday, and most of the time on Thursday, they do talk about the Hall of Fame and all the people that deserve to be here. But before I go any further, I think we have to have a big shout out for our basketball team this year. That was outstanding. Give them a round. I want to let you know that I cried when we lost. And I know you cried when we lost. And I know what it feels like. It's good to be on that side, but once in a while it happens on the other side. But you guys did outstanding. There's a few guys from the team here. Would you stand up, please, and be recognized? And that long one, you just did 6'9" last week. Is that correct? Yep. A new record for the track team, 6'9" high school. I never had a ball player that tall. The inductees, first of all, I know all of you. I watched you. I watched you play. I watched you practice. I watched you go through your injuries. And I know that you were the guys that when practice was over, you know, there was always, I know Tyler, when he was done with practice, you know, those wrestling practices were tough. And each day, I know he did weights, I know he did push-ups and all that. The basketball players did extra free throws, track people, they all did. Extra sand shots for the golfers. You did the extra mile. And that's why you're here. And I did a little. It was tough for me to do this much math, but I figured approximately since good old Norcross was at Michigan, beginning quarterback in 1903. And I figured out the number of athletes that may have participated since that time. And you athletes, listen to this. I had to do it a couple times. But you are 1/10,000th of 1% who are being
recognized tonight. Think about that. Approximately 15,000 athletes, as close as I could come in my research, and you are 8 of those athletes. Pretty good. But you didn't get here on your own. Look across the table. Look across the table at who you're with. You have parents, you have friends, you have relatives. When it was time to get to practice or get home from practice, there was somebody there from your family to take care of that. When you came home, you had a warm meal. That was Mom. She waited up. They had the meal for you. And back to Tyler again. I remember when I was AD, I had to be at school at 5 in the morning, but the players and the parents got there at 9 o'clock and they didn't get home till 6 o'clock. That's not counting the trips up to Marquette and back. So you owe a lot to the people who have supported you. Not only your family, friends, and fellow students. And you have to be so appreciative as you look back. Not only do you look at people at your table, as you meet each other tonight, meet those people, make friends. The best thing that happens to me every week is I get a chance to have coffee with some of my former players. That's terrific. Make friends with the people that you don't know tonight, your fellow inductees, because they put in the same amount of work you did, and they deserve friendship. And there is nothing better than friendship. Friendship is better than gold, believe me. I'm not going to go on, but as I was saying, it takes a village. Yeah, somebody said that before. But you also have to appreciate the fact that you had teammates. You just, you have to appreciate the teammates. It drives me nuts. Tom Brady, awesome quarterback, of course. But he's an MVP, but he had, I got the guy's names written down here. He had a left tackle, his last name was Mankin, and he was a 6-time All-Pro left tackle every year that Brady became an MVP. On the right guard was a guy by the name of Light. He was there for 6 years while Brady was there. Now, Brady deserved it, but think about your teammates. Think about your teammates. They gave you all the opportunities to succeed. And I'm not forgetting Chuck. I listen to you every day, and I know, Jim, you have a hard time working with that guy, but Chuck really appreciated all those fine words that you gave every year, all the time. Now, I'm not going to go any further, but I got one story about, Randy made the story about, not a story, he made the fact about the Maroon family. I moved to Menominee on August 7th, 1962. And on August 9th, Coach John Knispel knocked on the door and said, we have to give out football equipment in another day or two, but I want to take you over to the high school and show you the athletic office and the football field. Okay, let's go. So we get there, and now you're going to know who I'm talking about right away. But we go out to the football field, and here's a guy. It's about 90 degrees, like it is the last couple of days. And he goes down like this, and he takes about 10 fast steps, goes out, and without the football, he does this, and he starts running 15, 20 yards, and he stops. And he puts his down, and gets down in the stance again, gets up, and he goes down to the sidelines, and then runs like crazy with his hands up in the air. There's no football, nobody else on the field. Who am I talking about? Bill Rademacher, you bet. No, this is part of the Maroon family story I want to tell you. I was introduced to him. He says, hi, Coach, how are you? And after he graduated from Northern, he was, in his senior year, he was a practice teacher at Iron River High School. that year, whoever won that last game at Menominee, between Iron River and Menominee, would be the conference championship. Bill had just come back from his first year of practice in the season with the Jets. And of course, I'm the last one to mark my report cards. And I'm walking down the hall, and this guy's down there, and he says, "Hey, Coach, how you doing?" I said, "Who's that?" He said, "Me, Ferrati." "Then what are you doing here?" He said, "This is a big game." Now, come on, Rademacher is telling me I've got a big game, but that's Bill Rademacher. That's Maroon family. But it doesn't end there. It was 1960, oh, never mind, I can't remember the year anyway. We won the quarterfinal, and we flew. We got back home, sat down, there's nobody in town because they all went down to the game in Oscoda. And the phone rings. I said, "Hello?" He said, "Coach, this is Roddy." I said, "What's up?" He said, "We know we have to play next game." He said, "George and I went down and scouted for you." He said, "We'd like to give you a scouting report." Maroon family. Terrific. He went with George Eiler, by the way, in 1965. I wish George was here. He's a great friend. He signed with the Bears that year. So at any rate, you people deserve to be here. I'm not going to take any more time. You've got all these people behind you who love you, and you've got God-given talent, and I appreciate it, and I want to talk to all of you afterwards and just congratulate you and maybe even give you a hug. Thank you very much.
Guys, I give him great credit for not shedding a tear during that speech. Here's what's going to happen now. I'm going to call forward the plaque presenters, who are also the people who nominated the inductee. They are going to speak for a few minutes, and they will call the inductee forward, and the inductee then will speak, and we'll do that 7 more times. I'm not saying anything. Keeping my mouth shut. First of all, we have Dewey Belisle and Fred Matt. So the first 2 inductees we're going to induct. And their presenter was the man who nominated both of them, Mr. William Jones III. He was also their teammate in 1967. So at this time, I'm going to call forward Bill Jones. Yes. Okay.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome, Bill.
Most of the inductees tonight are multi-sport athletes, and Dewey Belisle certainly is one of those. Dewey played basketball, football, baseball, track, croquet, ping pong, you name it, Dewey played it. I think he's best known for his exploits on the basketball court. He was one of the first 1,000-point scorers. And what I remember most about Dewey was he was a sophomore on the state championship team in 1967, and he was a leader even as a sophomore, which I found very, very impressive. He had the respect of all the juniors and the seniors who were the majority of the team, and I think that was probably his biggest attribute. Was he was a quiet leader. Yeah, sometimes he's, I'm open, throw me the ball. Yes, there was that, but other than that, he was a very quiet leader, and he had the respect of the coaching staff, but also his teammates, most of whom were older than he was. So it is with a great deal of pleasure that I present for induction into the Menominee High School Athletic Hall of Fame, Dewey Belisle. Stick it in your pocket, switch right your ear. I'll just take over. It's all yours, Dewey.
Thank you, Bill. You know, my speech is going to contain, as I was listening to Randy and John and Coach Krishak, I've got a lot of those same ideas and what I want to say and what do I want to say, but I'll say them anyway. You know, Bill has nominated a lot of athletes or worthy athletes in the past, and I'm sure the Hall of Fame committee is appreciative of that fact. I mean, that's a lot of work to do what you did, to collect all the information on players and put it together and then present it to the Hall of Fame committee. And we appreciate that very much. I do, and I'm sure they do too. But I think I'm going to put my glasses on. For those of you who don't know, of course you know that Bill was on our basketball team. He was a sixth man for much of the year until circumstances put him, you know, in the starting lineup. And he blended right in. Believe me, he was overlooked fact that he contributed as well as the other four players. Now, to myself. My rural career started like many others. In the backyard, in the alley, in the basement, or anywhere you could play and dream at the same time. 5th and 6th grade basketball, Pee Wee League baseball, grade school football, and flag football. These all followed me through high school. To this day remaining vivid and fond memories. Some of those coaches who nurtured or structured the game at that time were Al Soupy Eisensoff. You may or may not have heard these names, but they've all, I think, deceased by now, but Dick Michaels and Don Hook Anderson. Moving on to high school, I was lucky enough to have the guidance of many talented coaches, most notably Hall of Fame coach Ken Hofer, Bob Krishak, and Fran Mellinger. Not only did I benefit from their mentorship, but every athlete in football, basketball, and track in the 1965 to 1969 time span became part of the most successful teams in the school's history. I was fortunate to have been part of all that success. In that same time period, 1965 to 69, we were in the midst of a more significant event, the Vietnam War. Many young men about the same ages as most of us were sacrificing their lives for the freedoms we all enjoy today. While we enjoyed that freedom to excel at our games and they sacrificed body and limb for those freedoms. May God bless all of them. Okay. Well, this has been mentioned already to salute this year's basketball team on what an achievement it was. You know, I think we never thought it would happen. Year after year went by and they weren't even close or even thought of it. But this past year, remarkable things happened. And Sam Larson, who deserves a lot of credit, worked with these kids since they were, 3rd or 4th grade, or 5th and 6th at least. And it turned out that his fruits of his labor paid off. they should be very proud of that. And hopefully they get the recognition, most of the recognition that we got. They were only one where they were in the title game. And, you know, luck wasn't on their side that day. Many thanks to the Hall of Fame Committee for their time and efforts in organizing the many achievements of all the athletes and inductees. Congratulations to all the inductees. I am honored to be a part of this class. And I know Randy and John have recognized themselves a little bit, but boy, oh boy, where would this Hall of Fame be without these two gentlemen? The year after year, the time they put in, it just makes boggle your mind. But thank you very much for the efforts that you put in, John and Randy. And I also, this was mentioned before, a special thanks and remembrance to all the Maroon media team, from the King Hall of Fame, Larry Epps, who's not with us tonight, I don't believe, to Pat Carpenter, Bill Pelner, Hall of Famer Chuck Patrick, Larry Kuzling, Gary Brown. Most of those names you don't remember, but they were there when we were achieving what we did. And they made it special for all of us. And I'd just like to add a special remembrance to Tom Kaiser, who touched us with his compassionate reporting. You know, he wasn't around the time that we were successful, but years later, and he'd always find time to mention it in one of his articles or something, but boy, do we miss him. Last but not least, a warm-hearted remembrance to my biggest fans, my family. My mother and father, Bob and Luella, my sisters, Barb, Teresa, my brothers, Mike, Bob and John. I love you all. And may this award help kindle in you memories of years gone by. A loving thanks to my wife, Kim, who has endured the stories of how great her husband was. A final shout out to my son Aaron and wife Claudia, who they're in Arizona and they couldn't make it. And the wind beneath my wings, grandchildren Matthias and Adelaide. Wish you were here. Thank you and God bless.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job, Dewey.
Okay.
Is Bill Jones still here? We're talking a lot about you tonight. It's almost as if, you know. That's not a good scene. All over again.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome, Bill.
Fred Matz. I met Fred when I was just a little kid playing Little League Baseball. And Fred was a lefty. I don't know how he did it, hitting from the other side of the plate. I never understood that. Fred was one of the real studs on the 1961 Menominee Little League All-Star team, the one that came within one game of going to Williamsport to play in the Little League World Series. Fred was, along with Dan Wesolowski, who was inducted last October, and Dave Goki, who's seated right here in the front row, were the real studs of that team. And they took Menominee on a long venture. And Fred played baseball as a freshman in high school. And when Menominee decided not to have baseball anymore, he said, well, I'll just play tennis, and he became the #1 tennis player. And he played 3 years of varsity football, culminating in the Barber Trophy. He played 2 years of varsity basketball, culminating in the state championship. It was always a good thing to get on one of Fred's teams because you knew you were going to win something. And the coaches realized that too because he was captain of all of those teams. So it is with a great deal of pleasure that I present for induction into the Menominee High School Athletic Hall of Fame, Fred Max.
Thank you.
It's all yours.
One page, well, actually, 2 pages. Double space, big print so I can read it.
Microphone.
And which one? That's the one. You told Dewey which one and what was on, and I just give me. You're a lefty. You're lefty. I see we're doing the age before beauty thing with Dewey and I here. The beauty stuff comes later, apparently. Do the mic, Fred. I see people are a lot more casual than they were back in 2018 when we had our first thing, and I was worried about, I don't do the suit thing anymore, but I figured if I went maroon and white, I could get away with it. But I noticed there's a lot of other people in the same boat. So. I think what I'm going to do first, before I get into the meat of the stuff here, is introduce my family. So we got a whole crew here, and it's going to be, I don't want to spend half my time, because I can talk about my family for half an hour. So Phil Matz, my older brother, would you stand up with your wife, Jananne? Can't tell Florida to be here. Next, my wife, Tammy. Dave Goki's like family, but you don't get to stand, Dave. Chris Matz, my nephew, Phil's youngest, actually, his wife, Amy. Here from south of St. Louis, by the way, on his weekend off. Brian Matz, my kid brother, here with his wife Wanda, from suburban Atlanta. David, his son and my nephew. Let's see, I've got a cousin Sheila here from Menominee, graduate from Menominee High School, and also her son Paul. So I think, am I missing any family?
You brought a busload.
Fred, you should claim Pat Miller too.
So, thank you very much. Well, needless to say, it's a pleasure to be here. My wife and I came from Central Florida for this gathering. It just goes to show you how far we will travel for a couple free meals. But that's not fair, and it couldn't be further from the truth because I really enjoy these events. Where else can I come and have this many jocks to talk to and reacquaint with so many old friends? Nowhere else. In fact, my brothers and I were just talking about how good it feels to be home again. And someone once said that home is not a place, but a feeling. And we couldn't agree more. So, now, what to talk about tonight? It's really not as easy as you might think, particularly since Coach Kresiak and Dewey stole half of my speech. I kind of feel sorry for the people that are going towards the end. There won't be anything left to say. First of all, let me say that I'm extremely proud to be entering the Michigan Menominee High School Athletic Hall of Fame. Quite a mouthful. And it's even, it puts me in good company, of course, and it's even a little sweeter for me because I never expected this honor. But understandably, I'm very happy with the Hall of Fame's decision. As a kid, ladies and gentlemen, sports were always my #1 priority. And that was largely because I was good at sports. I was not good at math or science. So, all through school, sports provided me with a lot of enjoyment, certainly, recognition, success. It was really after graduation where that transition we all go through, kind of some adolescence to adulthood, and I graduated, and it was kind of had the attitude of no more sports and what now? But as my wife reminds me on numerous occasions, I was wrong about the relevancy of my sports in school. I really kind of thought that it was all over, and really, the time I put in with sports, from then on wasn't going to be of much value. But I learned that many of the lessons that I learned on the ball fields and the hard courts of Menominee as a kid, they proved to be invaluable to me as an adult. You know, sports do matter. And I have these mental lapses every once in a while, so I think I'll refer to my notes here. Things ended up working out for me, and it was largely because the lessons that I had learned as an athlete, they came in handy. For example, learning and then accepting your role on a team. The accepting part is a lot harder, particularly when you play with the guys that I played with. Everybody wants to be the star, everybody wants to score the points, but you quickly learn that you have a role and you should abide by it. Things like setting objectives, setting goals, being able to rise to the occasion in those moments that really matter. These were all just a few assets that I found were just as important in my chosen profession of law enforcement as they had been in athletics. And I guess the point that I learned was that regardless of what you're doing, the principles of success do not change. If you want to succeed, find something you enjoy doing and then work harder at it than most everyone else. And if you do that, you're going to be all right. It's worked for me on occasion, and I'm sure it's worked for most of you as well. Team sports, for a variety of reasons, it lends itself to forming bonds with your teammates and your coaches, for that matter, that can last a lifetime. And the guys that I shared those thrill of victory and agony of defeat moments with, they still matter today. And as I've gotten older, I realize, as Coach Krishak alluded to, it's the people that matter most, even probably more than the events themselves. And speaking of people who matter, again, we've done this a little bit, but we're going to do it again. If you played on the 1967 state champions in basketball, the 1966 Upper Peninsula champions in football, or the 1961 Little League All-Stars, multi-state champions, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to have you stand up and be recognized. One more time. Guys for this, giving me this one last assist tonight. I do realize that without you there would be no championships, and I would not be standing at this podium. Ladies and gentlemen, those guys who are just standing are a few of some of the best athletes of the era. And the teams that I just mentioned, they provided all of us with memories that not many school-age young athletes get to experience. How lucky were we just to grow up together? We were damn lucky. In closing, finally, I want to thank the Hall of Fame for hosting this dinner and award ceremony and for doing what they do best, and that's to resurrect players and teams from past generations and shedding a little light on us at least one more time. What a great community event the Hall of Fame has turned out to be. So thank you for that. A big thank you goes out to my friend and teammate Billy Jones. We were co-captains together on the 67 basketball team. I want to thank him for his nomination, his support, and his ability to embellish my resume. Now, I've got this plaque right here, and I got to say, it looks pretty good. Be assured this plaque will find its way to a prominent place in our home. And for me, when I look at it, it will always be a reminder of those early days growing up in Menominee. Without a doubt, ladies and gentlemen, some of the best years of my life. Thank you very much.
Thanks, you want to take that? I'm going to invite Jim Callow up in a minute here. Because I'm sure he's got a speech all set. I got a little joke here. We all have something in common, those of us who have done radio. We all have the face for it. That was funny! Thank you. Julia, wasn't talking about you. I have the pleasure of knowing Jim for a number of years, had his kids in school. And I have also the claim to knowing Chuck Patrick for a number of years, and I consider Chuck to be a close friend. He's also my neighbor, just down the block. Sometimes I get his mail, sometimes he gets mine. I never read his mail. Liar. He never reads mine, I'm sure. But to present the award and to speak on his behalf, I welcome to the podium Mr. Jim Callow. I was really serious about that case for radio, you know, that is very true.
Good evening, everybody. Chuck Patrick Michalosik was born in Menominee and attended Menominee High School. He was in the junior class play when the director who worked at WAGN at the time was impressed by his voice and brought his name up to station management. And Chuck began his radio career back in 1957 in his junior year in high school. Chuck first broadcast the Maroons about 1961. During that time, he was also the nighttime DJ at WAGN, playing the rock and roll hits, which was the first time I heard Chuck on the radio. Sounded like he was having a lot of fun. Anyway, he left WAGN about 1963, worked at a couple other stations, and served Uncle Sam before coming back home, and worked at WMAM for a while. But by 1970, he was back home at WAGN, where he would spend the rest of his radio career so far. I should mention at this point that Chuck did more than just talk the talk when it comes to sports. He, in his younger days, participated in local basketball and softball and bowling leagues, usually putting together the team sponsored by the radio station or some other business. Just last week, a picture of Chuck accepting a trophy from the 1975 Twin City Bowling Tournament made the rounds on Facebook. Perhaps you noticed that Chuck was holding the trophy that was 10 times bigger than anybody else in the picture. Anyway, Chuck became the most valued employee at WAGN, as demonstrated perhaps best by the day in the early 70s when someone called in a bomb threat to the radio station. Chuck vividly remembers the station manager's car zooming out of the parking lot as he was left alone in the building to keep the station on the air. Fortunately, the threat was a hoax, and our story continues. In the years that others were covering the Maroons on the air, Chuck served as the PA announcer at the Maroon games, but eventually Chuck was back in his place as radio's voice of the Maroons in football and basketball, and called some of the most exciting moments in Menominee High School athletic history.
Good evening, everyone. From Blushfield to Menominee High School football, the Menominee Maroons and the Ledgers of Fond du Lac Springs, Chuck Patrick, Bill Gregory, Steve Peterson, ready to bring you all the action of WAGN on another absolutely beautiful Friday night for high school football. Olsen cuts wide to the near side, the wide side of the field, power to the left in the Maroon backfield. Play comes this way, Tarbach cuts it in, he's got room, he's got the first down, around the corner, 45, midfield, 45, he's ready to go, approach. We are underway in Sheboygan. Here's Tarbox. He's going to get his hands on it at the 10, 15, 20, 25. Cut to the hole. He's got a hole. Tarbox is going to go all the way, folks. It is 6:50 Menominee of the opening kickoff from Sheboygan. Welcome, Falcons, to Mr. Tarbox. 6 touchdown run backs, and the Menominee fans across the way are ecstatic. Good evening, everyone. Menominee Maroon football is on the air for the Pontiac Silverdome, home of the Detroit Lions. It is the Class Double B State Championship football game, the last one of the weekend. The Menominee Maroons and the Vikings of Hazlitt. Menominee 10-2. The Hazlitt Vikings are 12-0. Chuck Patrick, along with Kid Donaldson and Steve Peterson here at the Silverdome, Stocker to punt. From his 34, puts the foot to it, almost blocked. Byarski backs up, takes it up to 17, 20, 25, 30, 35. Still on his feet. Byarski. Touchdown. He came out of the pack with it. Looked like they had him dead to right. Byarski, touchdown. Menominee defense licking their chops. Receivers slip wide to the left. That's the first time you've seen that tonight. Shively back to pass. Throws. It is intercepted. Menominee. Reese. He's got a touchdown. Scotty Reese. Touchdown Menominee. 30-yard return. Mommy says trophy. Get it ready. Coming home to Menominee. And the Menominee fans are standing. We are at a dive and counting. What's the trophy, folks? It's coming to Menominee. Around the corner is Hart. And Hart going to be tackled down. And this one is over. Champions are the Menominee Maroons.
All right, great moments with Chuck, and thanks to Josh Kellner for putting those clips together. I didn't even know this was going to happen until tonight. Anyway, Chuck was voice of the Maroons in football and basketball until 1999. When new station owners decided they could do without a future Hall of Famer, yeah, Chuck's radio career took a pause, as did mine at that time. But fast forward to 2007, new owners again, and I had the opportunity to return to the radio station as the operations manager, and my first act was to visit Chuck and see if he wanted to return to the airwaves, and fortunately he said yes, and we spent the last 15 years together in the mornings on WAGN, so thanks, Chuck. Having worked with Chuck every morning for a long, long time, I get to know him, and one of the things that I admire about him is the fact that Chuck sets a very high standard for himself and for the people around him, and that includes his teams, the Maroons of course included. You only need to tune into the radio the morning after a bad Brewers or Packers loss to realize the passion Chuck has for excellence and how his teams have let him down that day. But it is that high standard for himself that also elevated Chuck's list of accomplishments to the Hall of Fame level. Ladies and gentlemen, so proud to introduce to you the original voice of the Maroons, Chuck Patrick.
That's all you got? Hardly worth coming off for. Thank you, Jim. To say I'm thrilled to be here and going into the Hall of Fame would be a huge understatement. Thrilled is beyond thrilled. Actually met a future Maroon Hall of Famer back when I was in grade school. Went to the old St. Anne's grade school. and that's where I met Red Luckisher. And I'm not sure if he was working at the school or volunteering coaching or whatever, but that's where I met Red. And back then we had a grade school basketball league, played on Saturday mornings in the old high school gym, 3 parochial schools and 4 or 5 public grade schools. And the public schools only went through the 6th grade, parochial schools went through the 8th grade, so after 6th grade, parochials had no league or anything, but by then Red had taken a job at the public schools and was named 7th and 8th grade coach for basketball, and we were told we could go over and try out if we wanted to. So a couple of us talked about it, decided if we were going to stay on the road to the NBA, we better go over and try out. And I know you're not going to believe this, but I didn't make the cut. So right then I knew Red was no judge of talent. But then I found out they only had 75 or 80 numbered jerseys, so I knew it was a tough cut. Anyway, that's where I met Red Luckisher. Growing up, I liked music and I liked sports, not unlike any other kid growing up. And it was the dawn of rock and roll. All the kids were into that, myself included. I used to fall asleep at night either pulling in a faraway radio station, listening to St. Louis Hawks NBA games or Detroit Tiger games. And then the Boston Braves moved to Milwaukee, and I became an instant Braves fan, and I really liked Earl Gillespie's play-by-play calls. I was hired at WAGN as a junior in high school, and back then the station was on the 2nd floor of the Glickman building, which is next to the old First National Bank building on 1st Street, and our studios overlooked the Menominee Marina. And I'd work weekends and nights and play in the records, and I'd go to school the next day, and girls would come up to me in this class or that class, and, "Hey Chuck, you working tonight? Will you play a tune for me? Or will you dedicate a song to so-and-so?" So that's when I think I really became a chick magnet. I should also mention I live on Fantasy Island quite a bit. But anyway, during the summertime especially, the kids would drive under the station windows and toot the horn and, "Chuck, will you play this or will you play that?" And so I'd look out, you know, and once in a while there'd be a carload of girls and, "Chuck, can we come up?" Well, the rule was absolutely no visitors. Come on up. So it was a fun time. And as far as the music part of my career, the highlight would have to be, I guess, when Marinette had their centennial, and the Marinette JCs brought in top-notch recording acts and artists that I had been playing records for years and years, and now got to meet them backstage and introduce them on stage. And people like Roy Orbison and Chubby Checker, Jan and Dean, and Tommy James and Dion, and the list goes on and on. So they'd come in on their buses, and I'd be backstage and introduce myself, and then we'd do a little visiting and pose for some pictures, and when it was showtime, introduce them, go on stage, and bring them on stage. And after the show was over, they'd be getting ready to get on their bus, and we'd say our farewells. But Roy Orbison was the featured artist for the Centennial, and the place was just jammed at Higley Field. And 5 minutes after the show was over, I'm standing out there waiting for the fireworks, and who comes out of his bus but Roy Orbison, smoking a cigarette, and we're standing shoulder to shoulder watching the fireworks in Marinette. And I thought, man, how cool is this? You know, I used to watch American Bandstand and envy Dick Clark getting to meet these people. So I'm glad we got Roy Orbison there, because about a year and a half later, he died of a heart attack. As far as play-by-play highlights, 1961, Fred Metz on that Little League team that went within a game of the World Series at Williamsport. And at the time, Larry Kuzling, the station manager, was manager of the Yankees team, I think, in the Little League schedule here in Menominee. And then he was named the manager of the All-Star team. And he said, we'll broadcast some games as far as they go. And I thought, okay, I don't know if the players were thinking Williamsport. I sure wasn't. I just thought, okay, we'll go here and we'll go there. Well, they won, and then they won, and they go to another city and they won. And pretty soon we're in Illinois and getting ready to play Terre Haute, Indiana. And that's where the dream ended, of course. And it was a hell of a ride. And I enjoyed that team so much with Freddie Max and Dave Golke, and he mentioned Dan Wesolowski that went in the Hall of Fame here last year, was on that team, and Pat Barrett, and a lot of talented young Menominee baseball players. And they might have lost, but we came home and rode the fire trucks in a victory celebration here back in Menominee, and that was my first play-by-play thrill. And about that same time, I started doing Maroon play-by-play, and that's when Menominee was in the conference, the Big Rivers Conference, with Eau Claire Memorial and La Crosse Central and Wausau and Marinette. And it was a tough conference, but that was my induction with the Maroons. As far as basketball play-by-play highlights, it wasn't even play-by-play. I was working at WMAM at the time when the Maroons went on their championship run. And, but 4 or 5 of us chartered a small plane out of Green Bay Airport, and we flew down to Lansing, and we were there watching the Lansing-O'Rapidi Thriller, and then the next day watching the championship game won by Menominee, and just being there and watching Coach Krishak with Fred and Dewey here tonight, and Pat Miller, and Dave Haglund, and Jonesy, and Mr. Johnson. Never so proud to be a Maroon fan as down there at Lansing that time. Football highlight would have to be the first state title team for Coach Hofer and the Maroons. And what a team. Talented on both sides of the ball, offense, defense, and they could score from anywhere, and they did. And Drew Blyarski, you talk about a sensational individual season. He had one for the ages right there, and you heard the punt return there. That was as good as you're going to see. And Coach Hofer, I think, was the one that said, all the championships are great, but the first one holds a very special place. And I'm so glad that I was able to be a part of that. And when Coach Hofer retired, he and I stayed in touch and still do some correspondence, but he always makes sure to include Chuck Patrick, voice of the Maroons. And Coach, you have no idea how much I appreciate that. And it always gets me thinking how lucky I've been to have over 60 years doing this radio thing and doing the play-by-play for the team that I love, the Menominee Maroons, in the city that I love, Menominee. And on my games, I had much help through the years, and whether it's spotting or stats or whatever. And I want to say thank you to Steve Peterson, Ross Rinning, the late Bill Gregory, John Nofke, Kit Donaldson, a big thank you. And it's not in sports, but I want to say thanks to Jim Callow for his help in studio and out. And also a thank you to Larry Kuzling, Vern Ecker, and Bill King. They were the owners of WAGN. That gave me my start. And so I'm thankful to have this career and now to join the Hall of Fame with all of these excellent players and coaches, and I'm so glad to be going in with these 7 other inductees tonight. You talk about living the dream, this would be the cherry on top. So I want to say thank you to Randy and John and everybody from the Hall of Fame, and to all the volunteers who decorated the place tonight for this special occasion. And to all of you, through the years, if you've listened to me a little bit or listened to me a lot, thank you.
Isn't that a voice? That is a radio voice for the ages, right there. Just a reminder, we're having photographs after the presentation. And everybody is sitting in, you guys know the drill. Who were the announcers at the state championship game? Well, you know that Gary Brown was one.
Larry Brown? Larry Kuzling.
Was Larry Kuzling there too? And there was a third gentleman. Bushy, that's the guy, right. Who can forget Larry Coos Lane? Anyway, let's get Debbie Hofer up here. Earth to Debbie. Debbie is going to spend some time talking about her sister, Denise Gentili James, the party people, the party family.
Just hold it there.
Thank you, and good evening. I apologize to those in the back. Yes, I am standing up and I am wearing my heels. I actually thought John was bringing the chair up for me to stand on. I can't do that.
You can't just the whole audience.
No. This is my first Hall of Fame event attending, and I'm honored to be here to talk about my sister. When I asked John what I needed to do as a speaker, he said, oh, just a nice 3 to 5 minute speech, short and sweet. And I said, why, thank you, John. Yes, I am. And so I am Debbie Hofer, and I'm here tonight because my mother, Barb, and we nominated my sister, Denise Gentili James, also known as Tilly, in all of her team sports, for this honor tonight. I am the oldest of our girl gang of 6 sisters. All of one but one are here tonight. And so the next in line is my sister Denise, and we are 4 years apart. And by the time she started her high school career in the fall of 1979, I was already married, living in Georgia or Ferris State University with my husband and our daughter. And so I did not personally get to witness a lot of my sister's achievements over those 4 years. But I definitely, when we were home for breaks, took the opportunity to go to her meets when I could. She was in cross country, gymnastics, track, and she was also a participant in marching band. She was an excellent teammate, I believe. She set records. She was fun to watch. I kind of went off my script, I'm sorry. She always had a great personality, very outgoing, hardworking student and athlete, and committed teammate. I will say I was very proud of my little younger sister and a little envious for the tremendous amount of dedication it took to earn 13 major M's and so many records set and medals earned. She earned, the medals on her M coat were like her own personal little bell choir, chiming to her every step. It was kind of like her own music to her own steps. Our dad was so proud of all the medals she made that she earned that he built her a little trophy case to her to keep adding because her jacket couldn't hold anymore. She was the first female to earn the Barbara Silverthorne Award her senior year, and after that she went on to her college years at UWGB and NWTC. And while working on her physical therapy assistant degree, she was on the UWGB cheerleading team, and she tried out and made the last official Green Bay Packer cheerleading squad. Now this didn't sit very well with our father, who was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, and was a die-hard Lion fan. And out of all of us sisters, Denise was the only one born in Detroit, and so that didn't sit well again with our father, thinking that she should have been a die-hard Lion fan as well. We all enjoyed watching her in person at those Packer games and on TV. But Denise's accomplishments go beyond the sports world. She is a loving daughter, sister, aunt, and a proud and supportive military wife to her retired military husband, Jimmy, a mother of 2, And in those times when her husband was in the active duty, there were times when he was gone for a year and she was at home with those kids, the 2 boys. That's a tough job to take that on, knowing that your spouse is not going to be home for a year. And of course she had the love and support of all of us, but she was in Oklahoma and it wasn't easy for us to be there all the time to support her. She has 2 beautiful sons who are adults. She is a new mother-in-law. She is a grandmother of 2 adorable grandchildren and 1 on the way. She is a dedicated in her physical therapy career of 34 years, and she has been a volunteer during her son's school years and college years, and in her surrounding Oklahoma area that they have called home for 25 years. On behalf of our family in attendance tonight, and those who couldn't make the trip, and for our little dad up there smiling down, I'm sure he is so proud of Denise. We would like to thank the committee for recognizing Denise's achievements and accomplishments at Menominee High School during her years. I will say, I think she got her excellent running skills from me because I was probably chasing her around because she was driving me crazy. But congratulations to all the inductees tonight in the class of 2022. It is nice to look around this room and see so many faces that I've seen over the years. Drew Bayarski, you know, we call you superstar. And Janet Sabar, I am always your fearless leader. So I'd like to thank everybody in the committee for nominating my sister, Denise Gentili James.
Wow. That's going to be another one? That's going to be a tough act to follow, along with the other persons that were presented before me. I was talking with my husband before this, and I always think it's baffling to me that I was so comfortable performing in front of tens of thousands of fans as a cheerleader at the Green Bay Packer games, but yet I find speaking in front of you tonight the most difficult situation for me. I am both honored and humbled to be among the others who have joined the Menominee Athletic Hall of Fame. To those of you being inducted tonight, congratulations to all. First, I am thankful to God He has granted me another day on this earth. I would like to thank the committee for accepting me as a member of this prestigious group. It is truly an honor. I thank my friends who are sitting at the tables back here, my family, my sisters, my mom Barb, Debbie, Sally, Julie, Chris, Stephanie, who's not here tonight. It means the world to me, and I'm so very blessed that you are here. Among those who are not here are my children, my oldest son Isaac, and his wife Brittany, and my grandchildren Camden and Ryland. They are in Oklahoma, and my youngest son Julius, who is in Memphis. Another very important person to me that is not here is my dad. I know that he would be very proud. I would be remiss if I didn't mention my coaches, Russ Wepa and Joe Johnson. You both were great influences during my time at MHS. Coach Wepa may not remember this, but as Stacy Cra and I would run laps during our event, we would sing "Wasn't That a Party" by the Irish Rovers. Although not appropriate for the setting, it had a great beat and it set the pace for all of our events. Coach Wepa would scold us, and then we would sing it, and he would just shake his head, knowing that we would do it anyway because we were a rebellious team. I have so many fond memories of high school, and one of those memories that stands out is of Mr. Burley. May he rest in peace. As a freshman, I was only 4 foot 11 inches tall, and a mere 89 pounds. For some reason, Dennis Sabota, the gigantic senior football player, took joy in finding me and placing me on top of the glass trophy case in the middle of the center hall. It happened numerous times throughout the year, mostly like weekly during the football season. Knowing that I could not get down because I would break the glass, Mr. Burley would come out after the bell had rung and find me up there and take me down. He would walk me to class and he would tell the teacher she was on the trophy case again. So even if I hadn't won a trophy, I was part of the trophy case. There are many more memories and classmates and football games, teammates, other classmates who are in attendance tonight, friends from out of town, teammates, and there were dances and parades, and although being an athlete and setting records was so important to me, the memories of that time will last a lifetime. The records will always be broken. Before I end my speech, there is one last person I would like to thank, and that is my husband of 30 years. Jimmy, you are my biggest fan, and I am your cheerleader. I am thankful every day that you are by my side. Thank you again, and I hope you all have a blessed night.
This is still Brazil. I gotta make one more play. So, thank you. I feel sorry for Drew Byarski right about now. He's the last guy, yeah. But we're gonna move on, and hopefully we'll get there before I have to be in church in the morning. I would like to call forward Menominee High School Athletic Hall of Fame member Sid Wells to speak on behalf of our next inductee, Janet Holfer-Shabar. So, without any further ado, Sid.
Good evening, everybody. You can rest assured that I've been over with my pen whacking things out of my speech. But it's my honor and privilege to have the opportunity to not only nominate, but introduce Janet Holfer-Shabar tonight for induction into the Menominee High School Athletic Hall of Fame. I've known Janet since my days at Menominee, specifically from Mrs. Oswald, or as we called her, Ozzy's PE class. I was just a lonely freshman, and I was kind of impressed because she was a big shot, upperclassman, big jock. She would actually talk to us little freshmen and sophomore people. So she had this nice, warm personality. Got to know her a little bit. Today, I had the opportunity to enjoy lunch with Janet and friends, and it was a nice opportunity to get to meet some of her family and some of her friends that were in town for this evening. And there were some interesting stories of days gone by, and once kind of stood out. In particular, there was a armbrust mom that kind of stood her ground against the faculty to get her daughter and her friend, Janet, into the boys-only small engine class. Not an easy task back in the 70s, but she stood her ground, and lo and behold, Janet and Lori were the first two girls to go to shop class. And the way they tell the story, it sounds like they kind of ran circles around the guys. And there were a lot more stories to follow because the boys were a little jealous of their capabilities with the small engines. But I don't think I'm going to share those tonight because that may indict some people. So she was not only a trendsetter in athletics, but also breaking various barriers in the curriculum at Menominee High. Before we get to those accolades, let me share with you a little bit of insight of Janet and what she is in like today's life. She's a sister, a wife, a mom, a mentor, and a great friend and a jack of all trades. Something you may not know, she's a seasoned outdoor woman, skilled at fishing and hunting, and shares her knowledge and experiences with many, such as our girls' weekend at camp, where she hands out merit badges for skills mastered under her guidance in the great outdoors. She's also been a mentor to a couple of young lads who recently lost their grandfather, and she helped them secure their first buck for opening of deer hunting season. She's not only been known to wet a line, but drop a new engine in her son's car. Lost my spot, sorry. So I guess that shop class did come in handy, huh? She's a chainsaw master, proficient at dropping trees professionals would not touch. She can hang drywall, pour concrete, build any structure from a deer blind to a house. And her friends will routinely call her with issues around their home front. Negate the husbands, negate the service repair guy, call Janet. Because as her family can attest, she does have a van loaded with almost everything and anything one needs. And she usually gets the job done and it works, and no problems at all, going down the line, it's great. I guess all that education at MHS and University of Michigan certainly paid off. It's quite apparent that Janet didn't let many obstacles stop her from her superior list of accomplishments as a Maroon and in life. But let's review why we are here this evening. While a Maroon, Janet was a member of every sport offered to women at MHS. That would be 5 sports: track, tennis, gymnastics, basketball, and golf. She was a member of the All-State Class AB mile relay team, scoring the most points, 103, for the team in 1977, the year she graduated, as well as holding school records in the mile relay and discus. Not to mention, she was the first female athlete to play 2 varsity sports in the same season. #1 singles tennis and basketball, also in 1977. I think she kind of had to work at that one too to get that approved. Am I correct? Yes. A bit of a trendsetter in my book, especially considering it was the early stages of Title IX. Can't imagine why Michigan wanted Janet on their track and field team, where she competed highly successfully during her college career and was inducted into the university's Track and Field Hall of Fame in 2009. Please welcome Janet Hallfrisch-Spar.
Come here, please.
My favorite teacher in middle school.
Flattery will get you everywhere. Maybe I could give it.
This is the one, huh?
That's the one.
You feeling cooler already? I didn't really, when you get nominated, you have a lot of time to think, and you reminisce about all the wonderful moments you had. And, but yet I know I should keep it kind of short. So I want to thank the executive committee and the selection committee for their recommendation to induct me into the Menominee High School Athletic Hall of Fame. Thank you to Sid, my sponsor. I don't know, and she's also a Hall of Famer. This past year, Sid competed in the Women's National Senior Golf Championship. Was that out in Connecticut? Yes. So you talk about longevity in a career and excellence. Sid is just phenomenal. And she's pretty good at hunting too. Don't let her fool you. And right, we talked about tonight how a person's success is never theirs alone. And
we talked about these points, and everyone's been copying each other's paper, so, but that's okay. You know, so beyond genes and a good work ethic, it's important that people support and guide and encourage one another. There's a few people here tonight from my best friend from high school. She came in from South Dakota, from Rapid City, and that's another Hall of Famer, Mickey Perkett Harlow. Excellent tennis player. Top 10 academic. Just a wonderful, kind person. Lori Ambrose-Patsky, yes, she and I were the first girls allowed to take small engines and auto camp. First day of class, Roger Klein, a wonderful fellow, he could diagnose anything. If something was going around, give him the symptoms, he could tell you what it was. First day, tear a small engine apart, put it back together, clamp it to the table, and start it. Since we were the only two girls, we were paired together, and Lori and I were the first to do that. So we kind of got a little bit of instant respect from the guy who said, yeah, we could handle it ourselves, we know what we were doing. Our families were, I'd say, maybe more progressive than what some families thought they should train their daughters to do. In our families, it was, you all can do it. We all can go up to camp. We all can go fishing. We all can go hunting. We used to, my parents were great. They built and moved houses for each one of us kids. Our neighborhood was like our big fat Greek wedding. We all 16 grandchildren running around. And so we learned how to do a lot of things even before I was in school. And yes, when we were kids, we'd go out and play. We only had 3 channels on TV. And so after school, and anybody who's, around my age, it was boring. We didn't have the video games, the cell phones, computers and all that. You had kids that had siblings. They were boys, they were girls. There were families in your neighborhood. There were no refs, there were no schedules, there were no uniforms. You went out, somebody had a ball of some sort, football, baseball, whatever. You figured out a game you could do together. You changed the rules if you had to. If someone's little brother couldn't hit a ball, he got further swings. You worked it out. You worked out how to do things together. And I've always felt that growing up, and for a lot of fellows, they may not realize this, but can you imagine if somebody said, I'm sorry, you can't play anymore? I remember when my brother went to the DAR, and he was talking about all this cool stuff he got to do. And my sister and I are like, hey, that sounds cool, can we go with you? I was like, no, they won't let you. Well, I want to learn how to make a wall or build a birdhouse, or shoot baskets indoor in the gym. They won't let you. Why? I am so glad that Title IX was enacted, because I never had to stop doing things I enjoyed. It was a hard transition for people. Things kind of changed. But there's nothing wrong with letting anybody who enjoys something do it. We all know that everybody's happier, and I don't care if they want to do plays, forensics, business professionals of America, play in the band, play a sport. We all know if we provide things for kids to do that they enjoy, they're happier. We all have to learn about things and feel that satisfaction of accomplishing something, and we'll all be happier. We all have somebody to cheer for. We'll have somebody that can help us because they learn how to do something, and they can help themselves better as well. Michelle Mansfield Hoffman is here. Hoffman Mansfield, I should say. If you ever see a vehicle with the plates, nuts for golf, that's Michelle. Now, we play in a lot of scrambles together. She's a good player. She has been instrumental in organizing the Upper Peninsula Ladies Golf Association tournaments in Menominee. Both of them are held at North Shore, and then this year they will be held at Riverside Golf Course. And Michelle has won club championships at all 3 of those courses. I had many wonderful teammates through the years playing various sports. A special group was our record-setting Class A/B mile relay team that received the All-State honors. And they are my teammates were Mary Wheelock, Linda Ewald, and Debbie Mashinsky-Lacombe. Now Debbie is here tonight. She was an underclassman, and unfortunately she was out with her family one evening and a vehicle drove through a building and pinned her and hurt her severely. She was a grade 880 running, 440 runner and basketball player. I think she would have gone on to be a Hall of Famer. But the one thing that never hurt, never got touched, never was scratched, was her ability to be kind and generous. We couldn't touch that. So thank you, Debbie. I wouldn't be here without you being on my team. I had many coaches playing various sports, and Russ Wakeland was my track and field coach. He gave me confidence, he was fair, and he was prepared and well organized. He brought out the best in our team. He would plan and figure how he could earn points in every position. He made every kid on that team feel like, you can help us. And some kids realize, I'm just starting, or I don't know how to do this well, or I haven't built up my endurance. Doesn't matter. Try. Would you try? Would you try for the team? And we cheered for each other. It was a great team. Kay Wapa, also a teacher, she helped me, but she might not know this. She suggested I read Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's work on death and dying. And it helped me through my grieving process. My dad passed away in the fall of 1977, and I didn't think many people knew. But he was terminally ill when I was a 15-year-old kid. I could have graduated a year early, but I wanted to be there to take care of my parents. I was the youngest of 4, and the other 3 were in school. So Kate, thank you. In my graduate work, I also help people with the grieving process, and in my profession as a licensed professional counselor. I wanted to thank my parents for encouraging me to go play. Quick little story. After dinner, whatever, kids would go to school. There was not a new high school building there, it is now, but we lived across from Central. And so all the kids in the neighborhood would go play. There'd be a knock at my door, and back then sometimes they shout out their name. It would be, Janet, you come and play? And my mom, being trained in how you train a daughter, would say, well, she's got to do the dishes. And my dad would say, honey, you go play. I'll do them. That was a great message to hear from your dad, being supportive. And my mom, she's like, yeah, okay, go play. I appreciated that. And it's usually the boys coming over because they were losing. My parents were very proud of the fact that all their children went to college. So I thank them for everything they did. I wanted to thank my children. I have 3 boys, Joseph, David, and Matthew. Even though I probably shouldn't be thanking them because they weren't born yet when I was in high school. No, big joke, Mom. Okay. They're fine, decent young men, and they're doing amazing things. They're a real joy to have around. A thank you to my husband, who I met when I was at the University of Michigan. I was also an athletic trainer for the football team and for the women's gymnastics team. I happen to live in the same apartment building. They happen to have an intramural flag football team, and so they recruited me to be their athletic trainer. But that's where I met my husband, and it's been 44 years ago. The best 44 years of my life. Anyway, he's a fine, decent man who's done many amazing things. He was a city attorney over Marinette for many years, helped with all the improvements of their facilities. He's a joy to have around. Hey, wait a minute. He sounds just like my kid. All right. I want to thank my track and field coach at the University of Michigan, the legendary Red Simmons. He ran against Jesse Owens 20 times, and he was on the mile relay team that won the national title in 1932. He was my coach at 67. He was a wonderful human being, reminded me of my dad. He was a police officer for 25 years before he retired and became our coach. And that is back in the day, if you remember Jack LaLanne, he started lifting weights, training. He was part of that era, very fit. He passed away in 2012 at age 102. As a senior, he did amazing records in track and field as well. He convinced the University of Michigan athletic director, Don Cunningham, to allow women to use the same track training facility as the Michigan men, with the understanding that the women wouldn't interfere with the men's team. There was only one pole building that was the indoor facility. There was one outdoor track. We were allowed to use the same facility. I was invited back in 2018. It's a 280,000 square foot facility. It cost $188 million, state of the art, track set bank, 2 of everything inside, big scoreboard, water rehab facility, nutrition facility. It's no longer men and women's track, it's Michigan track and field. Same coaches can coach both the guys and the girls. They've come a long way. When I ran here, I ran on cinder track inside the Blesh Auditorium. You sunk into the cinders. Now we have a firm surface of rubberized track. Times are getting better. Coincidentally, back in 1983, I competed in the all-comers meet in Atlanta, Georgia, where Jesse Owens used to compete. I won the Outstanding Female Athlete Award, and I'm sure Red Simmons would be proud of me today, as would my teammates. I'm proud of all of you for being here. You're demonstrating through your actions that you care, that you're supportive of members in your community. Social connection is important to a healthy life. You're taking care of them, and it's taking care of you too. I grew up in Menominee at a time that it was just starting to open up for women. And I'm glad that nowadays it is common to take classes you want to take and do activities you want to do, and to have them offered to when we were younger, not taken away as you got older.
I remember Jim Hodge in the Menominee Community Schools and the Winter Olympics. I don't know if any of you participated in that, but that was a really wonderful thing to look forward in the winter time. We got to compete at different schools in all different kinds of sports. And yes, John Hofer, I did play ping pong in the Winter Olympics. I also won Class C at the Hofer Ping Pong Tournament. And now I'm a Class B lifer. I can't get out of that category unless you create a new one for us old people. I am happy that I was allowed the educational opportunities that were flat out, for no good reason, denied to women that came before me. And through the opportunities I had in the classroom and through sports, combined with my love of learning and willingness to try to do better, this took me step by step on my way to a wonderful life. I credit Menominee Public Schools with providing me the foundation for my successful career. I had inspirational teachers and coaches. I learned how to establish and prioritize objectives and how best to learn the skills needed to achieve those objectives. Life is about setting your own interesting goals, asking the hows and whys that lead you to learn new things and increase your understanding. Enjoy each other's company. Thank you for this honor.
Just a reminder, photos afterwards. Hurry back, everyone. I'm going to call, he's on his way. I don't have to call him anything but Marshall. I don't even have to share a single action cold story, of which I have several. But Scott Hart here nominated our next inductee, a 1991 graduate, together with Scott of Menominee High School, Mr. Brent Nerick. Scott, you're on.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You know, I love, one of my favorite things about this group, and I've been here a few times now, I love the maroon ties and the maroon jackets and maroon shirts, and I don't have any of that stuff, and I wish I did because I want to represent that way. And so I decided, since I don't have those clothes, in honor of Dewey Belisle and Chuck Patrick, I would wear this hairstyle.
Good choice.
And I have this specific physique, which is exactly Joe Johnson's physique. And I have the starter version of the Coach Hofer goat. Speaking of goats, I have a chance to talk about Brent Nerick today. And even though I know he's the first thing everyone says about him is he's second only to Pat Miller. You know, it seems like such a backhanded compliment. But the truth is, it's amazing Mr. Miller's record that he set in the 60s. And you think about all of the basketball players, the great basketball players that have come through Menominee, and Brent is second, and that was over 30 years ago. It's really incredible what these guys have done, and what so many, and what Eden Belisle did this year, and the other 1,000-point folks. It's really unbelievable. And when I say GOAT, and of course that stands for greatest of all time, and that is never true of any one person, but a lot of these people are GOATs. And in our group, when we were kids, when I say we, I mean these group of buddies that graduated in 1991, and we hung around together and played sports together. If someone from the future would have come to us and said, hey kids, someday, many years from now, there's going to be a Hall of Fame in Menominee, Michigan for sports. And in the year 2022, one of you is going to be in it. First, we'd all say 2022. That's not a real number. There's no way that's going to happen. But then we would all have guessed the same person. We would have known. As much as we thought a lot of ourselves individually, we knew the one that would be in there would be Brent. I think about Brent as an athlete, and you've all read about him, and you remember watching him and thinking about what he did when he was playing. And that's such a small part of kind of what's great about him when you look at those numbers and the awards that he's won and things. But the type of teammate that he was is really what makes him so special to so many of us. And when I think about, I was thinking about, okay, he's second to Pat Miller, but he's, high jump always first. This is like just forever high jump. And then my dad handed me the paper the other day. Come on, Brady! I'm trying to write a speech here. Thanks a lot. But if you're ranking, you're thinking about Brent as a parent, as a husband, as a son, as a teammate, as a friend, in any of those things, we know for sure where he ranks, and that's second only to Pat Miller. So, I promise I didn't mean this to be a roast, but I just want to say how proud I am to help induct my best friend since middle school into the Hall of Fame for Menominee Sports. Ladies and gentlemen, Brent Garrett.
Pastor. Get this to him.
Thank you. Is this one on? Can you hear me? Let's move this way over here.
How about this one?
Yeah!
Thank you, Scott. And Scott has been one of my very best friends since middle school. He's also a doctor, Dr. Scott Harp, and he was also an amazing athlete, football, basketball, track, tennis. So he's a great Maroon athlete in his own right. So I love you, buddy. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations to all the inductees. It's amazing and humbling to hear everybody speak. And I really don't feel like I deserve to be up here. If you know me well, you know that I'm not a big fan of having the light on me. I'd rather stand off to the side, coach, help. But if you want it, I'd be the guy that would tell you about all the stuff he should have done better, or he should have worked harder on, that kind of thing. But that's not what we're talking about tonight. Randy, I have to. Your story really hit home with Dewey earlier, and I have to tell a quick story that relates.
when I was in grade school, it was the 83 team, Rulo, Pulaski, 83, right? So the 83 team went down to the Final Four. And I got to watch those guys as a little kid and idolize them. And we went downstate with my mom and dad, my family, and had a chance to watch those guys compete. And, you know, that was everything to me, watching those guys. And we came back home, and a few weeks later, we went to the DAR, and they had a thing where they gave out books. And you got to meet all the players were there. Baxter, Barron, Pulaski, Rulo, everybody. And those were like gods to me. And they gave us a little book, and you got to get autographs from the guys. And for whatever reason, I didn't have a piece of paper, so I had a pen and, you know, sign here, sign there. And I had an autograph by Al Rulo right here. And he was my idol. And I remember him hitting shots from the corner, and I wanted to be like him. So after that, I didn't want that autograph to go away. So every morning after I woke up, I'd get a pen out, and I'd retrace Al Rulo's name on my arm. And my mom would watch me every morning before school. Same thing would happen the next day. I'd shower, it'd fade away, rewrite Al's name on my arm. After about a month, my mom finally said, "Brent, it's time to let it go." But my point was, those guys were so gracious, and they were so kind. And I look at Aiden, and I look at Brady Schultz and Aiden Belisle, and I'm the kind of guy that watches kids when nobody's watching, because that tells me what kind of kids they are, what their integrity is like. And I watched this year as these guys won game after game, did some amazing things, and I can't even tell you how proud I am. And I watched little kids go up to these guys, and you know, they would be hugging these little kids, patting them on the head, talking to them, signing autographs. And I think about what you said, Randy. It's a circle, you know. These Hall of Famers, men and women, you know, you treat kids right, they inspire to be like you. And, you know, I think of what Sam's doing with his program here and the kind of men he's developed, and what a great future. And I look at these two guys right in front of me, and I know they'll be up here in 20 years? 20 years, I can just about guarantee it. And congratulations to Brady. Brady did break his own record of 6'8" this week on Monday, jumped 6'9". Very proud of him. And look out, because he's going to break it again before the year's over. He's off to a great start, so very proud of him. I think about what Coach Krishak said at the beginning, and also what Janet said, is, you know, you don't make these achievements and honors by yourself. You don't do it alone. And I take very little credit for what's happened to me. And number one, my coaches. I look at coaches and teachers and civil servants. Those are my mentors. The coaches that I have deserve so much, that I've had over my years, deserve so much attention. Track, football, and basketball. I can think back to my grade school coaches, Jim Eichhorn, Dennis DeTemple, Don Roach, Steve Larson, Red Luckisher. You know, we learned a little bit of something from each one of those guys, and they're so important to us. My track coaches over the years, Coach Anderson, Coach Smith, Bill Gregory, remember Bill? He helped us out too. Jim Hodge was a mentor of mine, and somebody I really looked up to, did a lot for me as well. Football, Pop Warner, Mr. Albert was our Pop Warner coach. And as we moved up through the years, we had the Bile, Jeff and Mark Bile, who looked up tremendously into high school, We also had the Bile brothers, and of course, Coach Ken Hofer and Satch and Coach Packmeyer and Van Dynen. Just very blessed and humbled to have those types of leaders and types of men in my life to help develop me as an athlete and as a person. So I'm, and as far as Coach Percolosi, I was with Coach Percolosi for 4 years. I JV as a freshman, and then we moved up to varsity together. So very grateful to Coach Percolosi and everything you meant to me as a coach, and helped develop me. And there's a lot of people that I greatly appreciate, the time that they put in, for me and my team. All my team members, I've got some friends back there, Davey Woods, Chris Woods, guys that played basketball with since I was little kids. Everybody, they all leave a little mark on you and help transform you as a person and a player. So just very grateful to have every one of them in my life, to be a Maroon. The other half is my family. I've said this before, that my parents, my mom passed away a couple years ago, my father, Joe, Bobby and Joe, I don't know if they missed more than 5 or 6 games, football, basketball, track, from high school, even through college, my college career. They sacrificed so much for myself and my brother and my sisters, and their support was just unbelievable. Their kids were everything to them. And I really don't know if I know anybody a harder worker than my father. So if anybody tells me that I'm a hard worker, a little bit, take that as a great compliment if that wore off from him. My sisters, Carrie and Amy, who have always been unbelievably supportive for myself and my brother. Basketball games, football games, college, traveling, just couldn't ask for better sisters. And to finish up with my brother, twin brother Brad, as most of you know, definitely a better all-around athlete than myself. And when you grow up on a dead-end road about 8-10 miles out of town, it helps to have a twin brother if you want to play sports. Whether it was playing catch with the football, one-on-one games, baseball, whatever it was. And Brad was more outgoing than myself. I was very shy as a kid, introverted, and he was the opposite. And I owe a lot. I owe a lot to him because he pushed me and he got me out of my shell. And he got me to want to play some sports that I wouldn't even have thought of. I don't even think I would have played football if it wasn't for Brad. He also, and I don't tell a lot of people this, that he beat me at one-on-one most of the time. So he had a fading jump shot, like over a gutter, that he would beat me every time. He drove me nuts. But I owe a lot to my brother Brad. But in closing, I just want to thank John and Randy for everything you do here. This is really a beautiful thing, and the work that you put in. And once again, congratulations to the other inductees. Go Maroons.
Hey, Drew, we're getting close. You're awake, Drew. You're awake? You have to go to the bathroom? Thanks for the warning.
That's number 12.
I've been informed that Bill Kelly did write his own speech, but he had his wife type it. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yep.
I gotta follow it.
Bill Kelly, also a member of that 67 basketball team. I don't know if his name was mentioned tonight, but he was. And he nominated this next gentleman who I think is a fine and outstanding young man and could serve as a great example for anybody, just like the rest of you people. Of course, I'm talking about Tyler Tefelsky, Lieutenant Colonel Tyler Tefelsky. I would like to ask Bill Kelly to come forward and say a few words and then invite Tyler up for his award.
It is my privilege to introduce Tyler Tefelsky as our next inductee into the Menominee High School Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame truly believes that Tyler represents everything we look for in a Hall of Fame member. Not only was Tyler an outstanding athlete at Menominee, he was also a National Honor Society inductee, and he was also a Michigan Boys State representative for Menominee. Tyler is a graduate of West Point Military Academy and has had an amazing and honorable military and adult career. Tyler is currently serving our country as a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army. He lives with his beautiful wife Monica and 4 children, Viviana, Landon, Jameson, and Owen, and they live in Macon, Michigan. He is the son of proud parents, Peggy Tefelsky and Rod Tefelsky. Tyler's complete list of accomplishments would be too many to list here, but I would like to highlight some of them for our benefit. Tyler is known as a wrestler. Tyler was an All-American wrestler at Menominee High School and finished with an overall record of 122-27 while wrestling for Coach Glenn Sartorelli. In an interview, Coach Glenn stated, and I'll read it exactly, Tyler has always been a hard worker. He is smart. He never wrestles in a bad position. He has the ability to analyze the situation and do what he has to do to win. Since I've been here, no one has put more effort year-round than Tyler has. He is the hardest working student I have ever had, unquote. A few of his accomplishments include, as a 103-pound freshman, I got quotes out way more. Tyler was the UP champion and runner-up at the GNCs. As a sophomore, his record was 31-11, finishing 3rd at both the GNC and the UPs at 112 pounds. As a junior, Tyler won the GNC tournament and followed that up by winning the UP championship in the 119-pound weight division. He also placed 1st in the district team tournament and the regional team tournament. His overall record as a junior was 34-3. As a 125-pound senior, Tyler's overall record ballooned to 36-4. He placed 2nd at both the GNCs and the UP state finals, and he was 1st at the district team finals. Over his 4 years as a Menominee High School wrestler, Tyler has won many titles in other places, including the Leona Invitational, the Escanaba Elks Tournament, Peshtigo Invitational, Menominee Kiwanis, the Menominee Super Duel, West Iron Invitational, and finally the Marquette Challenge. Tyler capped off his outstanding wrestling career by being named to the 125th All-American 125-pound class by the Amateur Wrestling News in May of 1997. Tyler also ran for the cross-country team as a junior and senior for Coach Randy Verkerke. Those teams won both the GNCs and UP state titles during those 2 years. And Tyler was named to the UP All-Academic team for cross-country as a senior. In his military career, Tyler received an appointment to West Point where he wrestled for the Army Knights as a freshman. He earned a BS degree from West Point in Human Factor Engineering and then went on to receive his master's degree in Business Administration from Webster University in El Paso, Texas. Then my wife adds, plus he received certification in program management from Defense Acquisition University in Huntsville, Alabama. Significant military awards for Tyler include Army Ranger Designation, Airborne Badge, Expert Infantry Badge, and the Combat Infantryman's Badge for engineering engaging the enemy in close quarters in a combat zone. Plus, some of the medals and honors that Tyler has received while in the military include the Bronze Star, 2 awards for exceptional meritorious individual actions taken during multiple sustained operations. He has received the Purple Heart for wounds received from the enemy in combat action. He has received the Defense Meritorious Service Medal 2 times for performance as a commander and deputy director. He has received the Army Commendation Medal twice for achieving Top Gun on the brigade in Bradley Infantry Fighting Vehicle Gunnery and performance as a company executive officer. He has received the National Defense Service Medal. He has received the Iraq Campaign Medal with 3 more Bronze Stars for serving in a combat zone during 3 campaigns. He has received the Global War on Terror Service Medal for serving during the 9/11 conflicts. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present to you the man behind all these accolades and accomplishments, Lieutenant Colonel Tyler Travelski.
Come on over here, you guys.
Wow, I didn't know he was gonna read all that. I was listening, I was like, you ever get that sensation where you kind of feel like you're kind of an imposter, you don't know you're So, last week, I just changed out command last week, and the stars really aligned so I could be here tonight, and I'm so honored to be with all of you and hear all of your stories. I was godsmacked by all the things that you guys were saying and all the life stories that you've had, and wondering if I, could compare myself or, procrastinate or say some of the things that you guys had already said, and kind of hit me that I think you guys already said everything. And one kind of going back to my change of command, when I was done, my son, who's now sleeping over there, reached over and leaned over my wife and said, "Man, that was a long speech." And then I was talking to Mr. Waper before this, and I was like, I'm nervous, I don't know what I'm going to say. And he's like, just keep it short, don't say anything, but just keep it short because they won't remember anything to say anyways. And then it was when I realized that I don't think anybody remembered my chain command speech then, because it was pretty long. But, as I was sitting there thinking, and then again, listening to what everybody else was saying and checking off everything, because all the low-hanging fruit was already spoken about. One thing that was constantly came up, and the theme was family. And being home and seeing all you guys and meeting back with everybody again really gave me that sense of feeling of being back here with family. When I was, about 2 weeks ago, I was sitting in church and I was listening to a sermon that my preacher was saying, and he looked out to the crowd and he asked us, what do you guys think is most important in life? And of course the congregation gave a whole bunch of lists of things that they thought were important. And then he pointed out that really boiled down to two things. And that was that it would either fell underneath the category of a purpose or a sense of belonging. And I really look out here and guys, and I think about athletics, and what it's done for me is it's given me purpose, giving me drive, but more importantly, it formed those relationships with all of you and everybody throughout my career. And they gave me a sense of belonging. So those two things really hit home for me. And then I thought about, when I was at the academy, we used to get hazed and we would get drilled and we would have to recite what was called knowledge. And one of the things that we had to recite was called MacArthur's Opinion of Athletics. It was, upon the fields of friendly strife are sown the field of seeds that on their fields on other days will bear the fruits of victory. And I thought about that, and I really think about, again, how it comes down to me is those relationships and those experiences that I've developed. I've received so many good relationships with you guys, the mentorship, the coaches, and I'm gonna have to call out a couple youths right now, which was my wrestling coach, which was Glenn Sardarelli. So many hours that you dedicated, and I really say you gave your time to us, because I know with the amount of your hours that you put in versus what you were paid, it really was a dedication to service that you provided to us wrestlers. And I also want to say, whatever you're putting in your water, you need to tap it because you still look the same age. And then I saw Mr. Matthew, and it's the same story. When I was assigned as a lieutenant to 10th Mountain Division, I received a letter from you. And I remember in high school, you used to say, you always emulated or talked about the importance of being a mountain man and how tough it was to be a mountain man. And then you were proud, you wrote me that letter that I was actually being assigned to 10th Mountain Division. Now I can say I was actually a mountain man. So I wanted to let you know that I have that letter still today somewhere. Of course, I wouldn't be here without my family and my parents. The many countless hours of dedication that you provided. Mom, thank you very much. Dad, I don't know if you guys know this, but he used to not recruit, what's the right word here? He would go spy on other wrestlers. And he would tell me, he would come back and he'd give me a little report on each one and say, hey, this is the move that he likes to pull most frequently. And we would scout it out. And so then I would go in and I'd be prepared. But I learned that about beginning to do rehearsals, unlike what I did for the speech tonight. But rehearsals continue to set you up for success throughout life. Mr. Burkirky was another instrumental person throughout my career in athletics. We started off, I think, when I was a freshman, seeing the cross-country team, and I think they probably had like 10 people on it. And then by the time I joined and I was a junior, and by the time I was a senior, there was 2 whole busloads of kids that used to go out to each meet. And so the fact that I got a member, or was able to get a spot and run varsity was very, very special to me. And still to this day, I run, mostly because of the experiences that I had with that team. And I think of that when I go out running. I've learned a little bit about command influence, and I've learned that those coaches that I just spoke about and my parents, they set the conditions that command climate. And I've learned and I've tried to emulate that throughout my life. And I want to say thank you to all of you because you set those seeds in my life. So I just wanted to say thank you. The other thing that I've realized that in the Army, as we say, if you guys have ever heard the song, the Army will always go rolling along. Our jobs will be, we change command or change our positions about every 3 years, and we'll be filled with the next generation. We do that to keep fresh and new thoughts and ideas coming through. What we really realize is as we continue, the Army's going to continue to roll along, even we're gone. But what I really realize is it's those relationships that are most important. And that's what I'm going to carry with me throughout the rest of my life, is those stories and those relationships that we have. And so, thank you. From the bottom of my heart, just want to be genuine and say thank you for everything you guys have done for me and being there for me and helping propping me up. That's all. Thank you very much.
I'd like to call to the podium Coach Ken Wolfer. Somebody wake up the coach. Coach up.
My lip was
Coach is going to wax philosophic about the accolades of one of his charges, Drew Byarski. But in a moment, Drew will call you up. Unless you want to come up now, that's okay. As long as you're on your feet. We just woke up too. Coach, what do you think?
It's past my bedtime. Probably the most important thing for me to say is to congratulate all of these outstanding young people for their achievements while they were at Menominee High School and the rest of their life. Congratulations on a job well done, and listening to your stories is fantastic. The athletics that came up, excuse me, the athletics that were involved in Menominee that you took part in, and took what you learned there and made yourself a great life. As a coach, we appreciate watching you grow like that and become speakers in front of a podium like this. It's fantastic. It's a very special honor for me to review the accomplishments that Drew Byarski has accomplished in his athletic career. The Eagle Herald called him the record smasher. Drew earned many awards and set numerous records. And let's remember first the records he set. A 97-yard a 97-yard return of a fumble versus Pulaski for a touchdown. Pat Collins had the single season, which is 9 games as far as the season is concerned, of 1,199 yards. Drew broke that with 1,249. Nathan Twork had the career record of 1,312 yards, and Drew set that season record with 1,791 yards. He has a career record of 3,045 yards, also breaking Twork's record of 2,269 yards. And he also had a career of 37 touchdowns, which is almost impossible to believe as a high school athlete. In basketball, he was Coach Pierre Colosi's Great Northern Conference Defensive Player of the Year. He received all Great Northern Conference first team honors in basketball. In track, he's a 3-time UP champion in the high jump, but was never close to 6'9". He also added the long jump to his records. At Northern Michigan University, he was a team captain. He was also a member of the college conference's all-academic team in both 2002 and 2003. These are the things that he has accomplished in order to become a Hall of Famer at Menominee High School. I've got a few other things here. I forgot my notes. You know, as you get a little older, you forget some of these things. He was an all-conference in both his junior and senior year in football. He was a Class B All-Stater. He was also selected to the All-State Dream Team in all classes. He earned the Tom Cayley Most Valuable Football Award. He earned the Clifford Nyberg Award as the Best Back Award, and he received the Barbara Silverthorne Award for the Most Outstanding Senior Athlete, and that's voted on by his peers. I would be remiss if I didn't mention his 83-yard touchdown return in the championship game in 1998. It was probably, by sports writers, written one of the greatest runs of all time in Michigan State playoff football. And even though the record, not for the length of it, which was 83 yards, has been broken, but the way that, the way he broke that record and the tackles he broke on that way for a touchdown were fantastic, and people who were there will always remember that. He returned that punt for a touchdown for 83 yards, and they punted to him again, and he fumbled. I had to throw that in there because that's what you do. You get, no matter how good you are, somewhere you're going to get humbled. And with that, let me introduce to you Drew Byarski.
Thank you. Thank you, Coach. Just want to say a huge shout out to a lot of people here, especially those in attendance. Start first and foremost with my mom and dad, who sacrificed a lot during my youth, as far as going to Gus Mackers and youth all-star games and this, that, and the other thing. That they did a lot for me, and I thank you guys a lot. Thank you very much. Also in attendance are a lot of my friends who came up from this, that, and the other thing. I have David Toriano and Nathan Perry who traveled today to get here and surprise me, and I just want to say thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys coming up, and I love you guys, and thank you very much. In addition to that, with that, I do have to say I appreciate my friends, but at the same time, it is humbling to have them in my place. So as we speak today, they are here in attendance, but at the same time, this morning when I woke up, I had clips on my cell phone of my overthrows and my interceptions. So today is the big day, and that's what I woke up to. So at the same time, they'll tell you I'm Coach Hofer's prize pony, but at the same time they'll tell you that I wore a red jersey and probably bubble wrap at practice as well, and neither of those is true, but that's what they'll tell you. Thanks, guys. And at the same time, I also have to thank everyone else in attendance, my uncles who I've grown throughout the years a more loving relationship with, throughout the years, and they're here. And for everyone mentioned, all of their wives deserve a big round of applause. To keep going, I do want to mention a couple people who were throughout this run, which was awesome, but a while ago, I do want to mention a few people who are no longer with us. We have Coach Perrin, Coach Vandenberg, Coach Luckisher, Satch, Coach Bill Gregory, Mary Matthew, and Josh Matthew. I'd just like to say thank you to all of those who had a part in everything that not only that I've done, but a lot of us have done. So thank you to them. As we move forward, I just want to say also, as we're speaking of people who are no longer with us, my Grandma Dorothy kept a nice scrapbook of everything I've done. My Grandma and Grandpa Zabo, who lived in Stevenson, also had a sign out in Stevenson as we were doing our run that I still have, as on Highway 41 as we were going down to Detroit. They had that posted. I still have that, and I just have to say thank you to everyone there. It's kind of timely that in second grade, my grandpa Spike passed away. And at that time, he was my idol. All I wanted to do was be a farmer just like him. But as he passed away, it was a time to change gears and try to make something positive out of a negative. That's where joining basketball and football that third grade year was where I had to go. I had a great support system in second grade. Relation, Mrs. Elferson, who is my favorite teacher and will always be my favorite teacher, was there for me and kind of pointing me in the right direction. And that's where athletics, as opposed to farming, became my passion. So with that, got into the youth football program as well as basketball, and I have to thank my basketball coaches, Coach Taccolini, who took us through 3rd to 5th grade, and then we ran into 7th and 8th grade, where Coach Luckisher and Coach Demuse had to take care of me. And it was funny because I worked hard during the summer to raise money, so I had the best shoes. And I was wondering as why I I was the 6th man, I guess you would say. And at that point in time, I didn't really understand it, but I had great shoes. I had, Nate Parrott's mom would bring me to Foot Locker to get some shoes, and because I didn't want my mom and dad to know how much I spent. It was kind of similar to putting the Tasmanian devil in a cage for a little bit. So I'm the sixth man on this team, and then they just let me out. When it was time, Coach Luckenshirt and Coach Demuse just let me out as a sixth man, and now I understand kind of what they were doing. But at that point in time, I was like, dude, look at these $100 shoes on. So at the same time, I'll talk a little bit about track as well. Already mentioned Mr. Wapa. He was pretty intricate in my career, as well as Coach Melcher. He got me out of the three-point stance into a regular stance for long jumping, and as well as Coach Anderson, who I eventually took over as track coach at Menominee. And that was kind of a position where, hey, here are the Menominee's best athletes, don't mess it up. Which is pretty easy to do. We didn't mess it up. Sorry. But to keep on the note, I do want to thank also Coach Hofer. Thank you for the introduction. I appreciate that. At that point in time, we did also have Dale Van Dynen as a coach, Coach Noah, who was there, Coach Schomer, after Coach Van Dynen, Coach Matthew, who is always integral in everything that is great in Menominee athletics. Our Hornets coaches, Coach DeRusha, as well as Shatuski. One thing I do have to point out, in the article that I've read multiple times, Coach Hofer has pointed out that Alan Mars had the integral block in the punt return. I believe, and my friends will back me up on this, it's been Tom Ames. Tom Ames has had the integral block in the punt return. In some class, I don't know.
You want to review the film?
I would also like to review what the punt return strategy was, because to my recollection, Coach Satch was telling Nash Myers to blitz, he was telling Eric Voigt to blitz, and he was also telling everyone else to blitz, and I was back there on an island with no one else to block for me. Anyways, I just want to thank everybody for this opportunity. This is one of the greatest accomplishments of my life, and I'm not gonna lie. I want to thank everyone else who was nominated tonight and who is in the Hall of Fame. Thank you and congratulations. With that being said, I really hope, and I'm not really hoping. The best thing that happens to me now is it's not the person that comes up to me and says, hey, are you that guy that had that punt return that one day way back 25 years ago? It's, hey, Mr. B, you were my favorite teacher. Hey, Mr. B, thank you for helping me out. Hey, Mr. B, this, that, or the other thing. And as much as my athletic career was awesome and I appreciate it, that's more to me than anything else. So with that, I hope y'all have a great night. Thank you for waiting for me to talk, and have a fantastic evening.
Last but not least, a criminal mark has 5 days of pay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be brief. I'm going to ask, you're excused, by the way. I'm going to ask the folks here in the front sort of to vacate their tables and set up 4 chairs here. I'd like to have all of the inductees come up with your plaques.